Doubling your prices or working 20-hour days is not going to make you more money. What's going to make you more money are these principles. You see, I come from really humble beginnings from a small town of Jaipur in India. And my parents were not necessarily wealthy. They were able to pay for my education, they were able to take care of our basic needs, but I didn't grow up particularly in a very abundant, a very wealthy household or a very wealthy neighborhood even. And early on in my life, I realized that one of the things that I want as an experience for my life was to be able to live an abundant life. I wanted to be able to get things that I want, get experiences that I want. I didn't want to live a life where I felt like money was a challenge and money was a struggle. And because of that, I started my education really early on how to think about money, what to think about money. What is it that creates true wealth over time? What is it that I can do to become a wealthy person, irrespective of where I grew up or what my education was or what my background was? Fortunately today, I can say I would be considered in the 1%. I do really well for myself and my family. We have some savings. We own a house, we own an office, and I've been able to create a really beautiful community that I get to engage with on a weekly basis. So I somehow figured out how to become abundant. And today I want to share with you some of the books that really were important in building this abundance in my life, and also some of the principles in these books that really stood out for me and that really changed the narrative of how I saw money and how I was able to build wealth for myself and my family and even for some of my friends. The first book that I want you to note is called Psychology of Money. The first principle that you want to remember from Psychology of Money is financial success is not a science. It's the behavior that you have day to day that creates wealth or creates financial success. A lot of us think that getting financially successful is about these strategies and tactics and things are new and happening in the market. A lot of people believe getting some more Bitcoin is going to make them wealthy. While those are all strategy and maybe they will play out the way they will play out, what one must remember is the behavior that you have towards money is what really is important. What is the behavior that you have when you receive money? How do you spend your money? What's your behavior around spending? What is your relationship with money? These are the things that really create financial success. When your behavior with money changes, your income changes and your spending changes, your investment changes, and your overall strategy of what is it that you're even trying to be or have as a wealthy person or as a person who has wealth, what is it? And your behavior defines all of those. Your behavior governs all of those. The second principle I loved in the Psychology of Money is called No One's Crazy. The author says that your personal experience with money is 0.0000001% of what is the truth about money. But 80% of your behavior is governed by that 0.0000001%, which means you are creating a narrative thinking everybody else is crazy for doing a thing or making an investment or following a market trend, but no one is actually crazy, including yourself. You're not crazy to be wanting to make investments a particular way. Your learning environment that you've set up for yourself is just getting you only that small data point that is your experience as 80% of actions that you take. Now that differentiation, that understanding of saying, all right, a small experience of my life is creating majority of my actions around money tells you how little you understand about money and how money is created, how wealth is created. So your curiosity must turn to what is it that I don't know about money? What is it that I haven't experienced about money? So I can make a more pragmatic, a more fundamental shift so I can have more money. The second book that I read early on, and I was so grateful I had access to that book, is a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You want to read this book. This book fundamentally shifts the way you think about money. One of the principles that I love from this book, it's not about how much you make. It's about how much you keep. That one principle changed the way I was approaching money until that time. Early on in my career, I was barely making anything. I was making maybe $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month. And so it would feel like, or it would sound like that I should not be able to have any money left in my bank account. Well, the thing that I learned because of this book was if I don't learn how to keep my money, I will never be able to compound the money that I got to keep. You see, if you don't keep some money, that is compounding on itself, you never have a chance to really being able to build some wealth. You always are thinking that if you'll make more money, you will keep some money. The truth is, you don't have to make more money to start keeping some money. It can start with a small investment of $50 or $100 every single month from whatever that is that you make right now. Because over time, that $100, those $50 turn into thousands, and thousands can turn into hundreds of thousands, and hundreds of thousands can turn into millions. The second principle from Rich Dad Poor Dad that I absolutely loved and it changed the game for me was don't work for money, make money work for you. When I heard that, when I read that, it shifted how I was looking at money. I was working for money, and a lot of us do, especially in the initial part of our careers, and that's okay. But there's a point where you start to wonder, how can I use the money that I'm making so I can keep making more without having to work for it? And that's where you start looking at something that is called assets. Assets are something that over time keep generating you more money. Assets could be things like buying a house or an investment property. Asset could be where you're investing in the stock market. Assets could be bonds. Assets could be many different categories that just compound over time and on top of each other. You want to find a way to take your money that you were making and the savings that you were making, like we talked about in the previous principle, and start turning them into assets. You're going to start small. You're going to probably start with a bond or with the stock market or something that you can do for a couple of $100. But over time, as this money compounds, as this money starts to work for you, you'll find you can get bigger assets and better assets. And as your assets get bigger and better, you'll find these assets over time start making money for you. And now I want to talk about the third book. This book is so critical if you are a business owner. This book is called Profit First. Here are some of the principles that I loved from this book. Pay yourself a salary. Pay yourself as the CEO of the company a salary. There are so many founders, so many leaders that I have met that are just burning the midnight oil, building their companies, and they never pay themselves a salary. They just wait for the profit to come one day, and so then they get paid. But that's not fair to an organization. If you really think about it, an organization will always have a CEO. Right now, you're playing that role because you're the founder of the company, but you will want at some point to hire somebody for it. Why would you not pay yourself a salary? Because when you look at the profits of the company, you are not looking at true profits because you never calculated the CEO salary because you didn't pay yourself a salary, right? So the first thing that you got to do is, as you make the P&L for your company, write yourself a check. Tell yourself this is going to be your salary. It should be fair salary to comparable to the marketplace. So if one day you need to hire someone, you can simply say, well, this is justified salary exchange for this role in the company. The second principle that you want to remember from Profit First is when less money is available, you will find more effective and sometimes better ways to get the same results. This was mind-blowing. I found that if I would allocate a lesser sum of money to a particular project, it didn't change the quality of the outcome for that project. Simply the allocation of saying, this is the amount of money we have, let's work within that constraint, actually made us more creative, made us more present to what is it that we need to find so we can protect the company and profits of the company and wealth of the company. And that became so much more powerful because we were actually a lot more creative because we had limited amount of money that we could potentially spend on something that otherwise would have a big budget. And that really created better products and better experiences for our clients. So these 6 principles should already help shifting your money mindset. But if you truly want to work on your money mindset, I invite you to watch this next video because here we really talk about how to shift your mindset by asking a few powerful questions. See you there.